more than 80,000 South Africans, in fact, it's now more than 100,000 South Africans, have signed an online petition to say no to ESKOM's exorbitant demands for electricity price increases. The Democratic Alliance will not allow these tariff increases to stand unchallenged. We will fight for the right of every South African to have access to affordable electricity. Electricity prices in South Africa have risen more than 945% over the past 17 years, far outstripping inflation. To put this in perspective, an average household using 350 kilowatt hours of electricity in 2007 would have paid just 69.30 Rand. Today, they are paying 724.50 Rand. And ESKOM is requesting an increase of between 36 and 43% on top of that. So that same household can expect to pay more than 1,000 Rand this time next year. It's a well-known fact that ESKOM carries some 400 billion Rand in debt, and it is its customers who are paying the costs of that, even when it is its own internal issues that have caused the problem in the first place. Over the past 10 years, ESKOM received approximately 242 billion Rand in bailouts from the national government. For the next 10 years, ESKOM is set to receive a further 254 billion in debt relief. That's R500 billion to prop up an entity that has a near monopoly on South Africa's electricity supply. What this means is that taxpayers are paying twice for ESKOM's poor decisions. Firstly, they pay in...
Honourable members, the first item on the order paper is a debate on an urgent matter of national importance in terms of Rule 130 in the name of Mr. K.J. Mileham on the recent decision by the National Energy Regulator of South Africa, NERSA, to grant ESKOM's application to retrospectively recover 8 billion Rand for the 2021-22 financial year. I now recognise the Honourable Mileham.
Deputy Speaker, as of today, we have had 178 days without the scourge of load shedding. And while this is something to be celebrated, it is not right that we consider this to be exceptional. It should be the norm. Right now, a further 900,000 households are subjected to up to 4 hours of load reduction daily. Essentially, this is load shedding by another name. I raise this because it is ESKOM's policies and practices that have an enormous effect both on ordinary citizens and our economy. One of the most severe impacts is that of electricity pricing. It is often claimed that South Africa has some of the cheapest electricity in the world. That is no longer the case. Our electricity prices now place us well amongst the top 50% of electricity globally. Electricity prices in South Africa have risen more than 945% over the past 17 years, far outstripping inflation. To put this in perspective, an average household using 350 kilowatt hours of electricity in 2007 would have paid just 69.30 Rand. Today, they are paying 724.50 Rand. And ESKOM is requesting an increase of between 36 and 43% on top of that. So that same household can expect to pay more than 1,000 Rand this time next year. It should therefore be no surprise that more than 80,000 South Africans, in fact, it's now more than 100,000 South Africans, have signed an online petition to say no to ESKOM's exorbitant demands for electricity price increases. NERSA, the energy regulator of South Africa, has already approved an 8 billion Rand recovery by ESKOM as part of its regulatory clearing account, or RCA, determination. The RCA is a mechanism that allows ESKOM to recover variances between projected and actual costs. It is intended to ensure that ESKOM can cover unforeseen expenses and maintain financial stability. This amounts to a further 4% on the current tariffs in the coming financial year. There can be no doubt that the RCA adjustments are complex and not easily understood by consumers and businesses who are just expected to cough up. Additionally, it incentivizes inefficiencies within ESKOM. There's little motivation on the part of the utility to manage its costs and revenues effectively when under-recovery in prior years can be made up by charging consumers and businesses more in the next financial year. ESKOM's ongoing reliance on RCA adjustments suggests that there are systemic issues within the organization that are not being addressed. But we cannot discuss the implications of tariff increases by only looking at the RCA adjustment. When NERSA considers its multi-year pricing determination for ESKOM tariffs, a large proportion of the increase is based on what is called the regulatory asset base. This represents the value of ESKOM's assets used in electricity generation, transmission, and distribution. It is a critical factor as it is the single largest component of ESKOM's allowable revenue and consequently the tariffs. Concerns have been expressed about the overvaluation of ESKOM's tariffs, which artificially inflates the RAB and leads to higher tariffs. This overvaluation is estimated to be in the region of 500 billion rand. An example of this are the corruption and cost overruns of Medupi and Kusile, which ran more than 154 and 146 billion rand over budget respectively. These overruns have been attributed to various factors, including design flaws, corruption, and delays. In other words, ESKOM inefficiency. Now, last week, NERSA confirmed that it does seek to take inefficiencies out of the tariff determination. But then, in an astounding about-face, in the very same presentation, the regulator stated that debt servicing costs, which include those self-same overruns and inefficiencies, were still part of the tariff determination. It's a well-known fact that ESKOM carries some 400 billion rand in debt, and it is its customers who are paying the costs of that, even when it is its own internal issues that have caused the problem in the first place. Over the past 10 years, ESKOM received approximately 242 billion rand in bailouts from the national government. This included various financial support packages aimed at stabilizing the utility's operations and addressing its debt issues. And for the next 10 years, ESKOM is set to receive a further 254 billion in debt relief. That's R500 billion to prop up an entity that has a near monopoly on South Africa's electricity supply. What this means is that taxpayers are paying twice for ESKOM's poor decisions. Firstly, they pay in the form of bailouts, and then they pay again when they buy their electricity. Minister Ramokgopa often refers to the energy trilemma. This relates to the challenges of balancing three key aspects of energy policy, namely energy security, energy sustainability, and energy affordability. Put simply, energy security is about ensuring a reliable and uninterrupted supply of electricity. Energy sustainability is about reducing the environmental impact of energy production and consumption, usually by transitioning to renewable energy sources such as wind, solar, and hydro. Most relevant to today's debate, however, is energy affordability. The energy trilemma impacts significantly on electricity pricing. From an energy security perspective, our aging infrastructure and frequent load shedding have necessitated substantial investments in maintenance and upgrades. These costs have been passed on through higher tariffs and bailouts. The transition to cleaner, more sustainable energy sources requires significant upfront investment. While this shift is crucial for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, even the upgrades to existing generation plants have resulted in large financial outlays and more expensive electricity. And from an energy affordability viewpoint, rising electricity prices disproportionately affect low-income households, making it harder for them to afford basic electricity needs. Today, you're going to hear certain members blame the rising costs of electricity on the increased usage of renewables. This is disingenuous. It is a fact that the earlier bid windows of the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producers Procurement Program, in the earlier bid windows, renewables were more expensive than fossil fuels. However, that is no longer true. And from bid window 5 onwards, the cost of electricity from these independent power producers has been lower than that of coal. This was confirmed last week by the Minister of Electricity and NERSA. Others will suggest hypocritically that the rising cost of generation at ESKOM is linked to the increased cost of coal. It's a matter of public record that the Optimum Coal Together deal, for which ESKOM forked out 586 million rand in upfront prepayments so that the Gupta-linked company could purchase Optimum Coal Mine, resulted in Together supplying coal that was substandard and did not meet ESKOM's requirements. This impacted on the operational efficiency and maintenance of the coal-fired power plants and may have worsened the effects of load shedding and further exacerbated the financial crisis which has ensued, thereby increasing the cost of electricity. Minister, the reality is the electricity pricing policy is decades out of date. NERSA's methodologies are inadequate, and the regulator does not heed the advice of their internal electricity experts. Furthermore, they are slow to respond to a changing, diversifying, and competitive electricity market. As the DA, we today call for an urgent review of how our electricity sector is structured, a clear picture of what the role of the National Transmission Company is in terms of procuring electricity and where ESKOM fits into that picture. We need to have a dialogue on how NERSA determines the tariffs and what can be done to foster greater transparency. And we need to ensure that those tariffs are implementable and can withstand rigorous scrutiny. For far too long, the tensions between NERSA and ESKOM have resulted in court cases, disputes, and rulings that have ended up costing you and I and every member of the public more. It has now reached the point where ordinary South Africans are being forced to choose between having electricity or putting food on the table, between having petrol in their car or power in their home. As Parliament and as government, we need to be doing everything we can to make electricity more affordable. The Democratic Alliance will not allow these tariff increases to stand unchallenged. We will fight for the right of every South African to have access to affordable electricity. Thank you.